What's up, y'all? Welcome, everybody. This is Control Camp. We are a community built for and by independent artists. I'm one of your hosts, Raj. Alongside me are my co-hosts, Eric Campbell. Steph, she'll be with us here in a little bit, but we appreciate everyone being here. We host this room every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we like to interview industry guests, talk about how to get your music into TV and film. So if you don't already know, get to know more about us over at controlcamp.com and all the resources that we have available. And if you haven't already, be sure to tap the greenhouse at the top, follow our club. You'll get notified on every new room that we have. We'll be doing our Campfire Convo today, where we'll be discussing news in the world of sync and answering your questions. So stick around. We'll be, pulling people up, give you a chance to chit chat about all the sync stuff, get your questions answered. And before we get started, go ahead and ping a few folk, spread the wealth, let them know. We got a really, really great lineup of topics to talk through. So if you feel like this would be beneficial to some folk, go ahead and ping them in the room. And also with the new Clubhouse chat feature, we might be in your DMs. We might be sliding your DMs. So just check out and be on the lookout. Our one of our volunteers, Brian, he might be hitting you up. And we just want to know a little bit more about your experience here with Control Camp and what you like, what ideas you might have, what you'd like to hear more of. So be sure to check your the DMs, the new chat feature on Clubhouse. And with that said, I think we can get started here in a bit. Eric, what you thinking?
No, let's roll and let's get things kicked in. So so while we're getting started, getting things up, um, we're opening we got the room is still just kind of filling up. So and we got a lot of family and regulars in here right now. So I've got a hand raising up. We can just do an open mic to start off. So feel free if you want to jump up, say hey, say a word, share something with us. We're going to do an open mic for a little bit while we get things kicking off. And we got Matthew and Shelly up here. What's going on, Matthew?
Not much. It's been a bit of a intense week. There's this movie that I did the music for, this animated short that is executive produced and written by Shaq. So that got announced in in Variety, and they include me in the article. So I've been getting lots of messages. It's been kind of intense.
Yo, that's
excited.
awesome, bro.
Yeah, it's called Head Noise. If anyone wants to check it out.
What's it called?
Head Noise.
Head
I think
Noise.
it comes out later this year or next. It actually will say in the article.
What's it about?
I just wanted to. I don't know how much I can say, but it's a story inspired by certain aspects of Shaq's career, and that's I think all I should say.
Okay.
On the internet for now.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome for the placements. Awesome that just getting the mention in the trades, like really, really cool. And you also got the how's the music supervision gig going?
Oh, it's going great. Well, actually, this other composing gig came up that is probably going to take over. So I'm not going to be able to do as much music supervision stuff very soon, but I think it's all good. But I'm just waiting to hear back on some stuff for this other gig. But yeah, I mean, you know what? I've realized that you got to just like keep your eye on like the biggest opportunity you have at any given time, and just make sure to kill it with that. I've made that mistake early on where I was, playing guitar, like producing artists who I thought were cool, but like if something else is paying a lot more money or something, immediately, then you should put all your time and energy into that one thing. Stay, multi-talented in different fields or whatever, but keep your eye on the biggest opportunity at any given time.
I love that. Just talking about being able and willing to pivot and being able to kind of recognize what opportunity deserves the most attention at that moment.
It's hard to do too, because yeah, I mean, I'd say that maybe, or I know that's good advice actually, because the biggest paycheck isn't necessarily the right thing to put all your money or all your time into, but
exactly right. But
I
think I agree with this. It's like a discernment of because sometimes it's a bigger relationship, sometimes it's a bigger opportunity, sometimes it's a smaller thing for right now, but it you really believe in your heart that it'll lead to a bigger thing. So it's calculated risks and strategies at all times. But I think knowing, kind of honing your instincts so that you can make that call consistently,
Right.
time after time, I think is the difference between success and not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's interesting, but it's also, I mean, I like what you said there because, I mean, like in my case, I have a podcast that's doing pretty well, and like that's probably like the least important thing in my opinion to my career. It's led to some great work opportunities. It's this thing called Composer Talk, if anyone's curious, but um, yeah, like overall, if I had to like let one thing go immediately, it would be that first. And I mean, that's just been like the excuse to stay, up to date with some of my composer friends, and you know, get to ask them any question I kind of want that would feel weird in a social setting outside of being interviewed in a podcast. So
I love that. It's on Spotify. It's called Composer Talk.
yeah, and we actually just made it to the top 100 music podcasts for Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
It's on Spotify as well, though, too. But, again, it's like I don't mind if it's going to have to take a break for this composing thing right now. But yeah, whatever, just gotta.
I see it. I just followed you on Spotify. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're a humble dude. You're like 60 episodes in. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, there's some fun ones in there. Yeah, it's a fun thing. I mean, I just started that during COVID. You'll see if you look at the posting dates. But yeah, you should ask everyone else how they're doing. I don't want to take up all.
No, it's good. Well, you up here a few times, but we don't talk to you that much. So I appreciate taking the time just to kind of get into what you're doing. It's really, really cool.
For sure.
What was the name of the podcast?
Yeah, Raj, it's called Composer Talk, and it's it's just I talk to composers. I guess recently too. There've been a couple of music execs. Like I interviewed Russell Zeker, who's the head of music at Lionsgate. Really interesting talk because I get to talk to him from the perspective of the composer and also ask questions about like sync placements or whatever. But just him talking on his own without me even like asking that too many questions, like you learn a lot about how like someone who's in the hiring position like when they talk about music and talk about finding songs, you learn a lot about what it is they actually are looking for at a certain time, and that kind of insight is what I try to go for in the podcast. I don't like to just ask, so you placed this Beatles song in this thing, like what was that like, because everyone likes to make it topical because these interviews are typically around awards consideration and Emmy, like someone's nominated for an Emmy, so they pay a PR person to get them interviews and whatever. But mine was like kind of meant to just give an insight into who the person is.
And it's dope. You've got some great you've got some great composers and supervisors and some really big productions. Like you've really been putting some time in.
Yeah, well I mean, I'm very lucky that like a lot of my friends in LA, I guess like New York as well, but like the first season I definitely like went all out with like getting the biggest composers I knew. And like starting off with my friend Ryan, who does the music for Rick and Morty. Like it was pretty easy after Ryan was like, sure, to just like get most other composers.
Right, because that's a big pull from the very jump. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the other thing with the podcast is you'll see that like the first season arguably has some of the biggest guests just like of a season, first 10 episodes. But then I also wanted to, as a member of the Composers Diversity Collective, kind of like shine a spotlight on traditionally underrepresented voices in film and TV composition, songwriting, and music supervision. So over time, like after the first season, I tried to make it basically for like every like one straight white guy to like get a underrepresented voice on the podcast, and it's a bit of a challenge sometimes, but it's pretty important to me. And I realized having like a bigger guest and then follow it with someone who's on the come up and just help build their credibility too. It's been really cool to see some who I interview and then like 5 months later, like it's great to see them have like a Netflix show that's in the top 10. So
that's
not that
awesome,
I help
man.
with that at all, but
it's still
it's
awesome.
like,
no, and just the mindset and having more and more people with that mindset of giving voice and exposure to people who are on the come up or underrepresented. I just think is so important. So kudos to you, man. Thank you for sharing all that. See, I love, I really love what we're doing in this new format where we're kind of more dynamic and more just kind of vibing off of what's in the room and kind of seeing what conversations we've been finding stuff that we never would have found out in our prior previously orchestrated format. So thanks for sharing all that, Matt. It's really cool.
Of course. Well, thanks for having me in the room.
Yeah, just you continue to hang out on stage if you can. Steph is here. What up, Steph?
Hey, you guys. How is everybody doing today?
What's up? What's up, Steph? We're good. We just in here waiting for you. We were stalling.
We were just no.
Let me stop.
I have been doing, no exaggeration, 16-hour work days for the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to say a bunch of stupid stuff tonight. I'm just going to give everybody a warning.
So Dr. Lisa messaged me at the end of the last, or in the middle of the last week's session. She's like, I hope Steph is getting some rest. I was like, well, I'll pass on to her that you said that because we say that all the time.
No, I'm not. No sleep till Brooklyn is really my motto for me. That's very sweet. I'm in a very good mood. It's all really good work thing. I think if anybody's ever worked on a major motion picture before and you get into like the week or two before production or principal filming starts happening sometimes, especially when there's performance-based stuff, you start to learn that everything changes really fast and you just have to kind of roll with it. And it's I'll bring some of the topics up tonight as we kind of go through, but it's pretty wild.
Awesome. All right, so we had opened up hand raising because we were kind of off to a slow start, and we just wanted to kind of hear from people in the audience. I'm gonna bring up one more, and then I'm gonna close hand raising temporarily. But while we have it, we got Shelly on stage. How you doing, Shelly?
Hey, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while.
Yeah, how have you been?
I've been good. I was off the radar in Mexico. I don't know if you guys remember. I was I was really optimistic that I would be like making these every week when I was in Mexico, but it turns out Mexico's a thing for a reason. So I tried to find you guys for a while, but the time zones and everything confused me. So I'm back. I'm in Idaho now and got back to work, got all my metadata sorted, so I'm feeling spicy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. We're glad to have you up here.
Yeah. Thanks for pinging me.
Yep. So we just for if you walked into the room, we just did a quick open mic just to say hey to some of the people in the audience and give them a chance to come up and say hello, greet us while we were kind of getting the room filled up. So it was a good chance to meet some of our members. Mac London. Did I say your name right?
You sure did. Hey, Eric.
How are you?
I'm good. Do you guys have some feedback? It's echoing on my end. Are you okay there?
I'm not hearing. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it might be because Eric records, so it might be a little echo sometimes. But
Okay.
yeah, you're good though. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Steph, how's it going? Nice to see you on here. I have just a quick question. So I am a recording artist out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I feel super isolated up here. I'm surrounded by country artists, which isn't a bad thing, but I just started my musical career about, I don't know, a year ago. Wrote an album in about 3 months, produced it, and then started getting some attention from, people in Clubhouse and generally the music industry, and signed with a sync agency. And I'm feeling a bit like I need to reach out. And now that I'm with the sync agency, first of all, I'm obsessed with music and the visual arts. I think they're just like that's my thing, and I didn't even know it. It was pretty cool to realize that that's been my passion all along. And so I'm trying to find people, individuals, creative talent to be able to write with for sync, and was recently told that it's much easier to sync a song if the writers aren't with any publishing companies, like they're not signed. And so those are my questions for you today, if you have a chance to answer them, is just kind of like, how would I get a chance to network with other songwriters if I'm way up north here? And what are the rules when it comes to syncing and being, signed to a publishing company, for example, or, other things like that? And I hope I'm making sense. And that's it.
Yeah.
You are. By the way, Mac's music is dope too. I heard her in one of Tommy's rooms. Her music is awesome. So just throwing
Oh,
that out there.
thanks, Daraj. We really appreciate that. I'm excited for it. Thanks.
Mac, would you have any curiosity in making holiday music?
I would love to make holiday music.
Cool. Yeah, so I signed an admin deal last year, and my publisher sends me like briefs for stuff here and there. But yeah, I would love to talk about. Yeah, I'm like supposed to do some like Christmas / holiday music for them in the next month or so. But
Wicked.
and just my general thoughts on the matter of like networking. I mean, you're doing it just being here and saying all that. But two, like I'm sure you can like record from home and you can write
I
over
can, and I've got
Zoom.
access to like world-class studio here. That's where I was recording my whole album. I have incredible Juno award-winning producers, so these things are all very accessible to me. It's just the people, you know. Like I said, we've got some really great talent here in the country world, but then they all like the Canadian geese, they all leave, and I'm left here all alone. So I feel like in order for my career to progress, which I obviously want it to quickly, I would like to collaborate and connect with a whole bunch of people, not necessarily from the States, but just like in the sync world. I'm
Right.
so excited about it. So
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that what you said, a couple of things that are dead on. And one, yeah, it's difficult. I think if you're working with people who are already signed and published, sometimes not always, but even Steph has shared some examples where sometimes it's difficult to get things worked out sometimes when somebody is published. Another thing, and I'm also taking this from Steph, who said this before, is if you're already with a sync agent, then some of the best collaborators are the other artists at that sync agency, or just other artists who are signed at other sync agencies in general. Most of them, the easiest ones are going to be the ones signed at yours, because all you do have to say is, hey, I just signed with whoever it is. Would love to work with you. Would love to check out some of your stuff. Here's some of my stuff. And then boom, it's easy. And it's also a great way to get a relationship with new other agencies just by reaching out directly. Most of their artists are listed on their websites. Go to their website, see who are the artists that they're representing, listen to the music, see who you vibe with, and just hit them up. It's the easiest, most direct way to, one, get relationships going. It doesn't matter where you are. Actually, in most of those cases, your ability to do stuff from home is, even in my opinion, even more of an advantage than having access to the other studios, because the other studios you got to pay for. It takes you longer to book time
Right.
there. You got
Yeah.
to make sure the engineer is getting your stems. If people know you can do a home setup, they're much more apt to work with you
Yeah,
than
and I
anything
have
else.
that
Right.
too. Like I have all of that in my basement. So I have that, and then I also have access to, I mean, Calgary's pretty small in terms of like the music scene. So the studios are booked up more now because of all the COVID art that has been coming out from the pandemic. People were busy writing, but for the most part it's been pretty good. But that's a great idea. And with Tommy Daraj, like he had mentioned that too, is to connect with his writers. So that's definitely something that I'll be doing as well. So thanks for that. Thank you.
So I wanted to just touch base on this really quickly. To talk about in terms of difficulty. Eric had it right, and I think one of the challenges is you don't necessarily even have to stick to your own sync rep if your sync rep is non-exclusive. It does make it easier. I think the bigger thing is whoever you're working with, it's always easier in-house is really the thing. So if you do have an exclusive deal, that's a whole thing. But if you try to go right with a writer that's signed to Sony or Universal or something else, your song becomes non one stop. It means it has to have multiple signatures. It could still be easy, clear, but generally speaking, especially if you're writing with a major publisher, you're no longer an easy, clear sort of position anymore. And that's the thing you always want to be. So I don't want you to be discouraged from writing with other people in other camps or other things. I think what you want to look at is how easy is this person's sync rep or publisher to deal with. And that is really has to be assessed on a case by case basis, and conversations just need to be had, because a newer artist even signed to Sony versus like a really well-known artist signed to Sony are two different things. I've worked with plenty of signed writers that we have, but someone who's brand new, they might bend the rules a little bit because they're trying to get them co-writes, and they're in the same position that you are. They're trying to get them out in the universe. But if you look at their biggest writer and say, oh, hey, this person already has multi-platinum, blah, 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 tons of whatever, and then you try to, co-write a song, they're going to try to extract as much money as that every time that song goes out, which, by the way, is not always necessarily a bad thing. The idea of it is the more people you work with, the more teams and the more people you have pitching those songs to. So yes, it could be a disadvantage, but it could also be a very strategic advantage. Me writing with some of my largest songwriting partners definitely put me in rooms with huge bands or huge acts that I would never have an opportunity to, be with before. So don't get discouraged that way. And then in terms of you being Canadian, I would also encourage you really to talk to SOCAN, because they're, pardon my French, fucking awesome in terms of setting up co-writes. And I've signed many artists that I've met at SOCAN mixers, because my writing partner is also Canadian and my board member is also from Calgary, where you're from. So I've been very tapped into the Canadian community. I love them. SOCAN is a massive resource. So go to their mixers, do their digital events. And this is going to be a weird one, but talk to the Canadian embassy here in the States too. They really like to set up Canadian artists with US labels, publishers, supervisors, and so on and so forth. So I can't tell you why I know that, but that is 100% a thing. So check out your embassy too here.
Find Frank Dukes. Sorry, I just had to chime in. He's one of my favorite writer producers. He's Canadian. I mean, he's prolific. If you don't know him, look him up.
Frank Dukes.
Frank Dukes.
That is awesome. So cool. All right, let's get through the. Let's say hey to the other two people we invited to the stage. Eric, how are you?
Hey, I've been doing well. It's good to see you all again here, and it's always a pleasure coming here every week. My past week has been really productive as far as especially somebody new in this industry, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Sync Summit, but
Yeah, did you go? You participated in it
Yep.
virtually, right?
Yeah, it was virtual, but it was a really good experience nonetheless. Because I mean, I didn't know anybody when I went in there, and then by the time I came out, like I had almost tons of connections. So it was really awesome to be able to pull a whole bunch of connections and also make the realization that a lot of this is a tight knit community. The sync community, the music supervision community is a tight knit community, and it's so awesome. And it's because everybody knows each other, and there's this kind of bond, and some relationships are stronger than others, but it's really cool to see that. And I mean, other than that, I've just been I did a very small podcast where I actually got to talk about music supervision and sync licensing and stuff. And on top of that, I've just been doing reviewing songs to get ready for placement for my job. So
Very cool, Eric. Well, thanks for telling us about all that and the Sync Summit. I saw it. I didn't participate this year, but I did see it online. It was like a week, or was it like 3 or 4 days, right?
yeah, it was Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah, I
So
saw
it
a
was
lot of
it was
speakers, so it looked like it was a lot of people participating. I saw a lot of familiar names, so it seemed like
oh yeah.
a really
Oh
good
yeah.
time.
A lot of people there.
Very cool. All right, thanks so much for sharing, Eric.
A pleasure.
And Harsha, is that how you pronounce your name?
Oh yeah, yes, Eric. Thank you.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm actually from India, and I really enjoyed what you guys were discussing here. So, I just wanted to quickly ask, could I ask you a question?
Sure, sure. Is it about sync, like music for TV or film?
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you about was when it comes to publishing music, the ownership of your royalties. If you were a songwriter and you wrote a song, and the ownership of your royalties and the publishing rights, if you sold it to a publishing company or with a recording label, etc. How does that really play out differently in a major label as opposed to like an independent label? And what would you say is the best way to go about that if you were a recording artist or a singer songwriter in today's landscape. And also, I just wanted to quickly say, Mac London, I really liked the question you asked as well, and I sort of heard your music as well before, and I'm a singer songwriter. I would love to collaborate with you if that's okay, and I'll DM you later. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, no worries. It sounds like what you're asking though is more of a correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's more of a general question about major label publishing versus independent label publishing, and that's not really. I don't know that we really have anyone on stage that can um, accurately speak to that, because we really focus more in this room on licensing music specifically on a television show and an advertisement, and the major label versus indie label agreement. You might get better, more tailored responses in the more of the indie rooms. Um, so I don't.
Okay, so I just maybe then slightly shift the question. So, how would it work in the TV, film, and ad industry? So, the same kind of royalty, or if your music gets picked up, how would that usually publishing or the rights, or how much should you sort of? How does that work?
Um, I'll answer this, and then we may come into the other way. But I will say, and others can jump in. If you are placing your music with either, let's say, music library or an agency, every deal, and we've talked about it in this room, every deal is totally different. And so these are different than like a publishing deal per se. Normally, whoever is representing your music is agreeing to sign, represent, or license that music potentially for just a portion of, they might, if they're representing it, they might get a percentage of the master, or they might get a percentage of the copyright. That could be the publisher side, or usually not the writer side. But there's not a standard in our industry. Unlike maybe more of like indie or major labels, a lot of those deals are case by case basis. It's based on the magnitude of the person who's or business that's shopping the music, the deals that they make, what types of deals that they get. So that does vary a lot, but usually you're not signing away the rights to all of your songs. You're signing away rights to an individual song, and so within sync you can have multiple partners um, that are associated with multiple items in your catalog. Different from a publishing, which sometimes it's usually all or nothing with a publishing company. So hope that helps a little bit. All right, so 8:30. This is Control Camp, CTRL Camp. If you want more information about us, you can go to controlcamp.com. Make sure you click on the icon above my picture that looks like a house and follow the camp. That's how you get access to the awesome after party that we do that starts in 90 minutes. And yeah, we usually are here. We're here every week discussing issues related to sync licensing. And so we're going to start, we're going to continue. We have Mike and Amanda and Clint just joined the stage, but let me just have Mike and Amanda were here. We did this before, but we're gonna pick two people and ask this question. We want to sincerely know that you're both human beings. We want the room to see us as not just execs and supervisors. So we ask this in all sincerity. Mike, how are you doing today? Like, how are you actually doing? How are you feeling?
Doing good. Thanks, Eric, Daraj, Steph. Thanks for having me up. Yeah, all is well. Busy, but busy's good these days in these most uncertain of times. So, yeah, feeling good, feeling healthy, no complaints.
Like to
Thank
hear
you for
that.
asking, and yeah, hope the same for all you guys.
Thank you so much. Amanda, how are you feeling today? How are you doing? Yep. Amanda, you there? She might have stepped away. Oh, maybe she stepped away. All right, Clint, same question. How are you today? How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Hey, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yesterday, I had some quesadillas, and They were good, but they had black beans on them, and my stomach's hurting right now. So
I love
Hey,
these kids.
all the way real.
I love that.
I'm for it.
I love
indeed,
that story
but
setup because I was like, you had me paying attention. I was like, wait a minute, where's it going? Where's this going?
Hey, look,
yeah.
he about to have a whole different kind of sound pack after this one,
Exactly.
Keeping
Yeah,
it classy.
other than that, I'm good. Just really social distancing right now. That's it.
Sounds like I want to be socially distanced from you right now.
Yep.
That is funny. Well, I'm glad you're here, bro. And totally understand if you need to drop off and come back on. We'll hold that against you.
Cool. Appreciate it.
But we might call you out for it. How you doing, Amanda?
Good. How are you guys?
Very good. Good to see you.
Our, humanizing moment of how are you doing? Genuinely asking how your day is going today.
Just dealing with some licensing stuff that's been on my desk for a little while. But otherwise, yeah, everything's good.
Wait, can I pick on Amanda for a second? Out of curiosity, since Eric set off a whole thing last week with, I think it was Mike, or maybe the week before, where we ask a couple of personal questions, because we haven't had you on as a guest, Amanda. We've had you on our stage as a moderator many times, but never on, on feature. Can you take us through like what a typical day might look like for you? Like what kind of stuff you work on? You don't have to give us any details, of course. I mean, just generally speaking.
Yeah, sure. So my mentor often says we're meatball lawyers.
Wait, what? Meatball lawyers?
Yeah, like we do all of the there's so much different stuff that goes into what we do. It's like a meatball.
I love that.
Oh wow.
So my days are always different. I try to keep structure to keep my sanity. But basically I try to get, emails done in the morning, and then I'm working on any given day music licensing requests and review of licenses, drafting documents. That could be anything from like a purchase and sale agreement of copyrights or income streams, which is a very hot topic right now, to producer agreements. I just got a side artist agreement request. A lot of phone calls throughout the day usually. Entertainment law, a lot of it is just talking to people. And then really the majority of my like real work gets done in the evening when the phone calls stop and I get to sit down and just be alone and focus. So I'm really not ending my day most days until at least 9 or 10 p.m., if not later.
That's fascinating to hear. Actually, we don't have to get into it now, but I think for the purposes of our room, just something to remind yourself as song creators, writers, producers, all the things. Amanda was talking about the sale of catalog and your income streams and things like that. Beyond just your sync catalog that you're creating. When songs don't go for sync, or even if they do, eventually down the line they also have a second life in terms of catalog, and you can get royalties, or you could also get advances against them, and if they are synced and they have done well, it makes them more valuable, creates more pipeline for them. So we don't talk about those kind of things a lot in here, but there's income beyond just what you're creating for the moment for that sync at that time, which at some point we should kind of extrapolate on.
Yeah, I actually want to. This is a good time to ask this question because I was having this discussion with another executive early in the week, and so with all of you here, I'm wondering. So you have all have been noticing how like we're in this wave of like catalogs being sold outright. It seems like, I mean, in my opinion, it seems like it's it's like it's bigger thing now than even in the past. Like entire catalogs from major artists and major producers and writers just being catalog, bought out, and that you also have more companies now that are even offering. Um, there was there was royalty exchange. Now there's some other companies that even offering independent composers if they've got sync placements or other royalties to sell out their catalog. I've seen types of deals this week. I've seen one where you sell out your copyright kind of either at like an auction, and then the other where you're kind of getting a financing company that's like advancing you money based um, on your copyrights and the income that they bring in. But anyone have thoughts just in terms of this trend and whether like I'm actually more concerned about it because it just seems like a lot of people are just selling their entire catalogs like out wholesale. It seems. I mean, for lots of money, but it seems like a big thing now. Any thoughts on that?
I think you're right in that it's happening a lot, but it's actually been happening a lot for a very long time. I think there's a couple of things that have shifted, and one is what's new is up until I would say, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe, it was totally uncouth to consider selling your writer's share portion of your song, not your publishing, but your actual writer share, which there are now companies that advance against that. There are new trends in the industry recognizing that it's very difficult. If you've ever worked in this business, most big companies, if you're working for a studio, are on a net 45 or net 90 day kind of pay, which means you get paid well after you do the work for it, which is really hard to sustain if you don't take a publishing deal, which are, sometimes like bad bank loans for that reason. That's kind of what they're built on. The fact that you're making someone's trying to make sure that you have money so you can do what you do. So you're not having to have a day job and you can focus on making music because it takes so long to get paid. And even after those net 90, if you're going through other intermediaries or other companies, they could have 30, 60, 90. So it could be 6 months before you get paid for the thing that you do. And that's if your company's on top of their shit and they PO you and they, do all the things that they need to do. So a lot of those deals also come from that. One trend that's happening now is because of what happened to the economy in not only 2008, but again in 2020, there's a financial term called TINA, which is there is no alternative in terms of investments. So a lot of people who are not in the music game are getting into the music game financially because they see it as an asset. That's what copyrights are. They're assets. So you should also think about them. But Quincy always said music is like songs are like real estate. Treat it like each one you have is a house that you're, building, which I thought was really genius. He made a really good point to me once. He said, I wrote now the name's escaping me. It's basically a song that he wrote and it became the Austin Powers theme. And he's like, I wrote this 30 years ago and then suddenly it's in this movie and I wasn't Soul Bossa Nova. He wrote Soul Bossa Nova, decades before it happened, but then, Austin Powers happened and it had a whole new life for him and made him, a fortune. So you have to really think about it as real estate, like something that you hold on to as an asset for long term. So there are a lot of people who are non-musical people. I've been approached many times recently by people who have no business in music trying to acquire catalogs or invest in our company. It's a real thing. I say instead of scaring anybody, it excites me because since people have to put their money somewhere, why not invest in us? Why not invest in music if you can? You have to be very, very cautious about those kind of investors and the people that you get into business to, and be realistic about if you're one artist, you're actually not always the best investment. And some people who want to invest in you, you have to ask why they're doing that. If they're an angel investor, which means they love you, if someone offers you money like that or offers to buy a catalog, do they have the money to really afford it? There's a lot of things that go into those things. But in terms of large scale acquisitions and stuff like that, I don't think they're happening much more than anything else. I just think that they've done so well for so many people for so long that there's now just a marketplace that's trading it a little bit higher. And because of that, you've got these more high profile artists in the news like Bob Dylan and things like that. Other people are taking notice, sort of a thing. So and by the way, there's a trend with, the same kind of less musically sophisticated investors, but high finance guys getting into Broadway as well. And this is going to sound very fucked up, but it's 100% true if you know anything about finance. Some of them get into it because they're like, oh, I need the loss. So even if you don't make them a bunch of money, if they're very rich, the loss is almost as valuable as the gain because they're offsetting for taxes. So I think for all those reasons, those are trends that are happening. And I don't know, not too scary to me.
It's incredibly insightful, though. I love that take on it. It really, really got my head spinning. Like just thinking. Really cool. We've got Atik on the stage now. How are you doing, Atik?
I'm doing well. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. Good to see you. Good to see you on the
Good to
stage.
see you, yeah.
And also Chris from Push Audio is here. How you doing, Chris?
Doing great, Egg. It's great to be back.
Oh, it's good to have you. Good to have you. So, all right, we're going topic to topic. It's actually a slow news day today, which is why I'm talking about some different things. But Steph, you said something that I don't know how much you can talk about if we can come back to this now. But when you first came on, you were talking about that you're in this phase now for the show or movie where things are about to go into production, and that's a whole different thing. But what can you share, especially since this started as a pitch, you know, hey, can you do a song? Like, how much of this process can you share of how we got from, you know, pitching, how you got from pitching a song or a group of songs for an opportunity to, you know, preparing for production and shooting and what that looks like? How much of this can you talk about?
So Eric knows the whole story because Eric was on the pitch with me and knows that from pitch to now I got the first call, it had to be like 4th of July weekend, like right before, I guess, July 2nd was the first time I had heard about this. And now it's, you know, July 28th. So this accelerated incredibly fast. It doesn't always accelerate this fast. The movie that I'm on now accelerated quickly because COVID. So they had started, and it's not uncommon. And you know, I won't speak to this movie, but I'll speak in general terms where, you know, all sorts of things happen with movies, especially when COVID's involved. But even when COVID's not involved, sometimes you get a script and then they rewrite it. Some gets fired sometimes or replaced. Sometimes they drop out. Sometimes you get a writer and that person drops out. So you can start on things and, you know, things get shifted. But what sometimes, especially with COVID, is happening, and it's happening on a lot of productions that I'm on, it's happening the TV show we worked on too. We'll start talking about something months in advance. Like the TV show I'm working on, I got the call back in March or April for it. And it actually doesn't come out until, you know, it's animated, so it'll come out in the fall of 2022. So sometimes you get a really long lead time and sometimes you get a really short one. What I noticed with COVID, though, is that the particular production I'm on, this had a very long lead time, but because they couldn't do a lot of the things that they wanted to do because of COVID protocols, they're starting very late, but they decided to keep the same production schedule. So they just lost like 8 months, basically. And instead of trying to like push out the movie another year because there's all sorts of marketing and principal talent and things that get attached to it, it's like, okay, well, if I get, you know, Will Smith to be in my movie, he can only shoot it, you know, May to June or whatever of 2021. And, you know, if we have to move the movie, he's shooting another movie next year. So a lot of things like that happen. So they chose to keep the schedule for whatever reasons they did on this one. So we just work on a very accelerated timeline. And I think when we started this one, they knew that they had these big production numbers. And I went out to our team, and Eric and Daraj pitched on one of them with us. And music supervisor called me and said, okay, you won the biggest song, which is the big production number in the film. It actually plays 4 times in the movie. It's a big, big number. And that in and of itself was a big job. But then they said, oh, principal shooting starts August 8th. Choreography starts next week. You know, we need to make a bunch of adjustments to this song so that these choreographers know how to, you know, at least block it out. And look, sometimes it's as simple as talking it through with the choreographer production team, which we did. I talk dance because I had a dance Broadway mentor when I grew up. So I sat with the production team and the choreographers. We talked about the counts, and then we say, okay, the tap dance solo happens for these 8 breaks, or the banjo solo happens for these this count, and then we will actually just use a click track to mark out that time. But we're a bunch of overachievers, and I really wanted to get them a bunch of music, so we said, all right, well, let's just see if we can plow on some of this music. And we did it, and that was our only intention of working on this movie, or what we thought. And I guess we did just good enough of a job where the music supervisor said, hey, there's 3 other songs by 3 other artists. We like how you produced this one. Would you put your hands on these other 3? And I said, okay, cool. It'd be really fun to do. And then they go, oh yeah, but we also need those done yesterday. So, we've been playing catch up, and every song is different. But I think, something we never really talk about in this room is that there's actually a tremendous amount of work in the space that I'm working in now, in terms of making bespoke music for original numbers, for performance scenes, or big, musicals. And especially because, remember, we talked about it a couple weeks ago where we said musicals are making a big comeback, and somebody has to write those songs and produce those songs. So that's a huge, chunk of the business on the sync side that I think only a few people get to do. I was out competing with the top 10, I would say, guys who usually, do this, and they're all prolific. And I say guys because it's mostly guys. So there's very few women. There's a handful of really good ones, but not a ton of really great women who get to do this stuff. So I'm really thrilled to be trying my hand at it as much as I can. I feel very fortunate, but again, it's a no sleep thing. So, I would love, at a certain point, I don't want to dominate the whole conversation with this, but like, I would love to get into what it's like, to kind of work with production teams and do that kind of stuff. Cause it's a very different beast than make a song that's going to be played in the background somewhere. There's so many details that go into the specifics of, hey, if there's a trumpet on camera and that trumpet player is playing, sound needs to be coming out of that. And Eric, you actually did Greenleaf like this. Do you want to? I would love for you to talk about some of your kind of on camera, because Eric's actually also been on camera being a player on stage, which is a whole other sync thing. So I want to toss it right back to you to talk about your experience on Greenleaf like that.
Yeah, the production side is really interesting because I've gotten to do a couple of different things. Greenleaf, so with Greenleaf on the second season, I was part of the music production team, and small team, but so the show is a gospel based drama, so a lot of gospel music. It's based in the main characters are a church family, but very dramatic church family. And so there would be like Sunday morning services, and so there would always be like choir. And so we would charge with creating the music for the Sunday services. They would do a lot of covers, occasionally original songs, and then some of the characters were also aspiring recording artists in the show. Deborah Joy Winans of the Winans family was one of them. And so we had to create some original music for their characters. And some of those were live performances, where they were, they're singing in church or they're at a club performing. So it's actually really cool seeing some different ways. Like one, just creating the music, and it's, I guess different scenes are different, but in that environment, things are very secure. So you're getting scripts at the last minute, and scripts are subject to change. So you might get a script on a Tuesday for something that's scheduled to shoot on Thursday. Although Wednesday night, there might be a script change, which includes a music change or a song change. And so it's a very dynamic kind of, just not being comfortable and being kind of on the edge of your seat, knowing that things could change, and you got to really be able to pivot and not take any, things personally. But yeah, we did, it was actually a lot of cool things because getting to, if you write a song that's for a particular actor, you'll demo that song like you do any other song. and then the actor will come into the studio and we'll vocal produce them, get them to sing the song, and then depending on the scene, they can either be on stage and they'll lip sync along with the demo that they recorded. Sometimes the director might opt to have them sing it live, which I think editors hate, and is usually always like the hardest thing to make actually work in the end. But sometimes, just depending on the song, the actor might prefer it or the director might prefer it. And so we've done both of those uh, situations, recording demos up front, having the actor lip sync it on stage, and then also having because of the last minute nature of the changes, actually
I think we lost you.
Oh, did I black out? Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are. We got you now.
Yeah. So because of the dynamic nature, sometimes you do covers, and then you do the demo and the actor will sing. But then because of the last minute thing, we also get into crazy situations where, as they're doing a live recording, and the actor might be singing it live, but it's different than what they recorded. So we're actually doing coming into the studio, singing after the fact, recording after the fact, and trying to match what they did on stage live, which is just it's just the biggest pain for us as well as for the editors, because then the editors might send it back to us to redo. But it actually surprised me, and different productions are different, but it surprised me how with and Steph, you might have be interesting to hear your take, but it surprised me how with different production companies, and I've worked with a few different ones on different shows, some things you kind of expect everything to be like in order. These are these huge productions. We all just go to movies and we see all these credits, and so it seems like it's a huge project management, gig. But sometimes some things feel really, really last minute. They're just scrambling to get things in order. A script just changed, or an actor's not available, or something's crazy on set, and so the amount of things like pulling things out of the sky to try to get stuff to work, I think I was surprised by that. Do you see that a lot, Steph? Do you feel like that's more the norm or the exception?
It depends. It depends upon the production. I mean, I've worked on productions that are massive, that are so organized, and there's so much project management because there's multiple, especially what we call co-productions. So, if you have two studios working together, they're very diligent about their schedules, and they're very diligent about their follow-ups and their email chains, and everything is a new, very well orchestrated sort of thing. And it's kind of like a ballet, which is like, because if somebody kind of drops, you're going to get kicked in the face, and it's going to be a problem. Especially when there's multiple layers of approval. So the larger the movie or the larger the TV show, especially if there's double studios, there are multiple layers of approval. You have to have a real just give you notes to give you notes.
Oh, you might be dropping in and out a little bit, Steph, unless you just stopped. Is it me, Daraj, or did she stop? Did she drop out? Daraj, Steph, can either of you hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear anybody? Anybody on the stage? Somebody say something. Using my
Had an experience where we were approved all the way across the board on a theme we were doing for a television show, and then it turns out one team forgot to send it to the most important team for notes, and we got a really interesting note about energy back after everybody had approved the song, and we were kind of like, oh, we can write you a different song. It's just like a different vibe. We ended up actually bumping it up a couple BPM, and that did the trick. And it was, to be honest, it was kind of one of those notes that just shouldn't have existed. And I got the feeling that, because somebody didn't get their chance of giving notes, they were trying to create an opportunity to make notes, which is something that happens. But I think that's exactly why you have to just have, like you said, have a thick skin and roll with the punches and kind of, go with it. But, on the flip side, I've worked on major studio indie films that are incredibly organized and major studio films that are chaos. So it really depends upon the producers, the production team. Your line producers are actually everything, but I would say the best advice I can say is be nice to everybody and be as easy as you possibly can. I find that it's super fun to be on the music team. It's less fun to be the music supervisor sometimes because, as mine was just saying, I'll deal with all the people you get to make the music. So we're kind of like Santa Claus. We get to make everybody happy and fix problems, and if they don't like something, we solve them. We make a new song and everyone's like, we're dancing, we love you. And then my poor supervisor's like, everyone hates me because nobody wants to play nice about splits, and he's like the bearer of bad news and has to ask everybody to give up a piece of something or take less money or try to make a budget work, and then try to explain to producers why they need more money or advocate for everybody who's working on it. So I, again, always have so much love for our music supervisors, and I always say they are the most underappreciated and overworked, underpaid humans that I know in this entire business.
Agreed. Daraj, good time for a reset?
It's time for a reset. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Control Camp. This is a community built for and by independent artists. I'm one of your hosts, Raj. Alongside me are my amazing co-hosts, Eric Campbell, Steph Fink. We appreciate everyone for being here. We host rooms every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we like to talk with industry guests and just get into how you can get your music into TV and film. So get to know more about us and all the resources we have available over at controlcamp.com. And if you haven't already, be sure to tap the green house at the top. Follow our club. You'll get notified on every new room that we host. Also, after tonight's room, we'll be ending in about an hour. We do our after party, and so you'll only see that room if you are a member of our club. So be sure to follow us, and you'll see that pop up in your hallway right after this room closes. So we're doing our weekly camp conversations. Camp Convos will be discussing just news in the world of sync, answering any questions you might have. So stick around. If you haven't already, be sure to ping a few people in the room. Share the wealth. There's a lot of good information that's going around, especially for those who are looking to get into the space and know a little bit more about sync licensing and getting your music in for TV and film and other visual media. And with that said, I'm going to kick it back over to you, Eric. I think we might be getting close to opening up and getting a little bit of the audience interaction, but I'll let you take it over, Eric.
Yeah, actually, I'll pass to Steph, and then we'll get some people jumping in.
Booyah.
I got you. Well, first let me say, hey, Tommy. Hey, Jess. So nice to see you guys. Welcome back to the stage. Tommy, I feel like you've been in every time. I really don't do rooms outside of Control Camp. I'm not on Clubhouse much, but I'll sign in just to see what everybody's up to. And it seems that no matter what time of day, be it 7 a.m. for me or 3 in the afternoon, Tommy is always crushing it on Clubhouse with 1 billion people.
The Clubhouse king. That's right.
Animal. Guys, an animal.
Yesterday was crazy. Yeah. We actually had somebody, and I said, hey, I just feel somebody in the room needs somebody to tell them that they're okay, that their life is worth it. I think somebody in the room is thinking about taking their life, and the dude spoke up, and we spent an hour, and it was amazing healing him. It was crazy.
I have to say, I think that's the magic of Clubhouse, to create a community where there is none and give people who might be feeling alone, a sense of camaraderie and community that they might not otherwise get. So I applaud you for doing that. Atik, you're the master of that. We didn't say hello to you yet either. Atik, you have the room. How are you doing? So I think Atik is the one who turned us on to that, as we've said before. Atik, I have a question for you. I know it's not, football season just yet. I'm going to give you what's your day-to-day kind of happenings like now?
So it's actually kind of crazy. We have our reporting deadline, which is important for writers and composers to get paid at the end of August. We're moving to Inglewood. So we've got that going on. And then we've got Inside Training Camp, which is our training camp shows. And then working on a project for kickoff of the season with a big kickoff of our new facilities. There's a commissioner's project that I was working on. And then I've got my other stuff like I'm on the culture committee, so trying to improve the culture here. So I'm planning some events and stuff for all of our employees. So it's been kind of stressful, and I've also managed the schedules for all of our team for COVID. So between that and everything else, it just it's so busy. Like I feel like I need an assistant right now.
I can't believe you don't have one.
Yeah,
Might I
it's nuts.
ask you, since you brought it up, if you're willing to? I don't know that everybody in the room understands what a culture committee is or why it's important. I'm curious if you'd be willing to, kind of share a little bit more about your work with that.
Yeah, basically, it's trying to improve the culture of our LA office. It just try to boost morale and essentially that's what it is. Try to build a community and feel like you're part of a team. That's basically the purpose of this group. And just some of the things over the years that came out, they realized that they needed this committee here. So we've established it, and we host a bunch of events. We're doing stadium tours. I'm planning a couple of stadium tours right now. We're also doing a farewell to our offices here, and then also planning like happy hours at work and just various events. Working with the Inglewood community as well. So just really trying to boost morale, because it's been, we a month and a half ago, no, about a month ago, we laid off a number of people, and so morale is down, and there's a bunch of other stuff, return to work and mandatory return to work, so stuff like that.
That's rough. I think it's amazing that you're doing that, and I think there's a good lesson in there for our room, which is, like Tommy was saying, like Atik is pointing to, watch that mental health, create communities, do what you can to boost morale, surround yourself with great people, and it's not just all about the music. It is all about being a good human, which makes better music. So thank you for that. I think we're going to kick it to some audience questions, but Daraj has one from the audience, and I just want to remind you that if you want to ask a question and you don't want to come up, you can back channel with Daraj and send him your question. And I think you got one in the hopper, right, Daraj?
Well, no, I just have a question for the audience.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, and before I forget, when we were talking about Greenleaf earlier, my wife was in here listening, and she was on her phone. As soon as Greenleaf got mentioned, she perked up. She was like, "Eric was on Greenleaf?" So you just got like immediate clout in the Wells household, Eric. I'm just letting you know that she loved Greenleaf.
That's dope.
All right, so the question I have for the audience, I wanted to see everybody raise their hand if you have ever actually pitched your music before to maybe a licensing agent or a music supervisor or a music editor, or have you ever pitched your music for TV and film opportunities? Raise your hand if you have. I want to see what the audience is looking like. Okay, I see 6, 8, 9, 12. Okay, so we got a good number. All right, go ahead, put your hands down. Okay, second question. Raise your hand if you have never pitched your music before. Oh, wait. Hand raising got turned off. Hold on, we're going to open it back up.
I got it. I was controlling it. Yeah, I just opened it back up.
All right, cool. All right. If you have never pitched your music before for TV and film opportunities, raise your hand. Okay, we got a couple. Okay, so we got a strong audience of those who have pitched before. So I wanted to ask a question because I was reading the Thinking in Sync book by Amanda Craig Thomas. It got recommended a while back and then got recommended again, and so I wanted to take a a shot at reading. I got like halfway through it in a couple hours. It's not a long read, but she has some really, really good information about how to. Yeah, like it confirms a lot of what we talk about here often. But I was just curious, and I don't know where we want to take questions, or if we're ready for that yet, Eric. But I would love to just kind of know from the audience, from those who have pitched their music, even from those, well, from those who have, kind of what they found, what their experience has been like, what's been helpful for them, or any challenges they may have had. And then for those who haven't pitched their music before, maybe what questions they might have to encourage them to pitch their music. So
I think that's great. Yeah, if anybody who's done their own pitching directly to Soup or to an agency, or is that what you meant to not just Soup,
yeah,
but
I can frame
agencies
it. So
also,
if you
or
have pitched your music before to like a supervisor or agent, go ahead and raise your hand. I want to get some conversation and just see what's worked for you. What was that experience like? And so I see we got a couple brave souls. Oh, we got a few. All right, let's throw a couple up here. Let's see. Okay, cool. I see Mac. Mac, what's going on? So
Hey.
you've raised your hand, so I'm assuming you have pitched your music before, correct?
I have, yeah. There's something called Canada's Drag Race up in Canada. It's a show, drag queens, that sort of thing. And we're actually, my team is friends with the production team, and so we were able to just channel that relationship and pass them the song. And they're in the pre-production stages, so we won't know, but they've got the song. So that's been my one and only experience. I mean, we've sent emails and tried to make relationships with music supervisors, but what I'm finding is that's pretty hard to do. So you'd have to really work on those relationships on the back end before you even pitch a song. Otherwise, you're just going to get blacklisted, which I don't want to do. So that's been my experience.
Okay, so it's really cool.
Hello,
So
Mac.
this is your first time pitching, you said, directly, and you've been trying to build some relationships on the back end. Is that what I heard?
That's correct. Yeah. So we have some producers that we're friends with in terms of like shows that are currently in production or in pre-pro, and just trying to get our foot in the door that way. But other than that, trying to build some relationships with music supervisors. But that's been it. I'm, like I said, I'm fairly new to this, so just learning as I go here.
Mac, you're new, but you're crushing it. I think you nailed a really important element, which is, work those relationships, kids. If you have them and you know that you have friends that are music editors, directors, producers, if you happen to have those people, be polite, be a human, ask, I heard you're working on this. Would you mind if I send you stuff? Do you need, and more importantly, do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? That's the best thing. And a lot of directors and producers I work with are really appreciative in that respect. And a lot of them will pass you along to their music supervisors. They go, well, I don't really know, but we have a really cool music supervisor that works on this. Let me ask. And some of them will also take your music and annoy their music supervisors with it. So it works both ways, but I highly encourage it.
Love that.
I would just even suggest preemptively asking to meet this music supervisor through them, just to get them in the loop as soon as possible.
Amen.
I actually had to just go through this. I have a personal friend that's been an actor for years, but landed a lead role on a network show. And the supervisor was one that I hadn't really connected with before. And so, got the intro. He was like, do you want me to just take it to the director, producers? I was like, no, can you intro me to the supervisor? I'd much rather, loop her in from the jump. And yeah, it's worked out to be, and she was appreciative. So I would just say, try and get the supervisor looped in as soon as possible and not go around them, so to speak.
Amazing.
Awesome. All right. And I'm Eric. I know you sent a text. You wanted to follow up with your challenge from last week. I like that. Let me know how you want to do that, because I know this was kind of on the fly. So if you want to, okay, lit. Dana, I see you up here. So which category do you fall in? Have you pitched your music before, Dana? I'm pretty sure you have.
This.
Yeah, no, here I am. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I have. I've pitched more than than have had things stick. But I've had some things stick, and I've pitched. Um, I actually just pitched something last week for a show, and just over the years, yeah. Did I answer a question? Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, and I'm just curious. I like to kind of know where people are in kind of this space because we talk a lot about how to get in front of the right people, how to engage, how to have good etiquette, and so I'm just curious who's actually pitching and just kind of what experiences they've had. Have it been good? Have it have they landed something for you? Have you gained some noteworthy relationships from it?
Yeah, in the earlier stages, I was an art director in advertising. So, like that way, I try to like take the back door a lot, but it's kind of hard being recognized as when you're in one position and then another. And then our lead producer, like his girlfriend was Saida Garrett, so I could never really get any love on that end. So, but that was like when I was like in my 20s, and then just over the years, I guess it's just like relationships. My sister is a publicist in the music business, has been for years. I've met a lot of people through her. A guy my first like big like movie placement was he was the soup over on like Tyler Perry's, and he liked my music, so that was just because of a relationship. And then over the years it's just been, I'm not like I've been doing this for so many, I mean I've been writing and singing for years, but on this end of things, just trying to create relationships with people. And like the person I pitched to last week is a really good friend who's a supervisor. So it's just been through relationships and just and it's been a good experience. Some things haven't been, but for the most part, I mean, I'm kind of like a shoot for the stars kind of girl. So I'm just
Right,
like, if I don't ask, what, I'm not gonna
right.
know. So
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I got you.
exactly.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate you sharing, Dana.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, no, because this is really helpful, I think, for our whole audience as far as just hearing other people's stories and testimonials. Not just from us, who have we speak all the time, but I know like there's we get an audience, our members, our community. They're active as well. I know you all have stories, and so moving on to John, I know John personally, so I know he's pitching this stuff. John, what have you found that's worked for you, in pitching, that you found?
Hey guys, good to be here and talk to all you guys. I'm going back to one of my first pitches, which was about 10 or 12 years ago, and it was for uh, actually for Marvel Animation back at the time, and I didn't get the gig, but we went back and forth on a song that would have been like the title track uh, for an animated feature they were doing at the time. And despite the disappointment of that, the one thing that the one piece of feedback that I got was he said it was a great track. Just we kind of, you know, it just ended up, the needs kind of morphed a little bit, but he appreciated that we were really responsive. I mean, if he sent an email, I responded like within minutes. He didn't have to, didn't have to wait around all day. So I mean, in addition, I agree with being a great human, building relationships. But I also found that like promptness and just basic courtesy also means like understanding the needs of the soup, and that they need something right away. And so I can't just say, oh, I'm going to check my email tomorrow and see. I mean, so just that diligence of being attentive and being very intentional as far as this is the pitch was a big deal, and it was. I think that through our diligence and through at least our communication, expressed to them that we did take it very seriously, even though we didn't get the gig.
Yeah. No, I love that, John. Like it's I feel like even in those moments when they don't show up or it doesn't land in the way you had hoped, because I've been like really, really close to some big stuff. But it didn't fall through for one reason or the other. But that again, I feel like the whole theme is going to be around relationships. Like that relationship showing that you can show up and that you're trustworthy. Like I think it just puts you in good standing, and also it kind of makes those who are looking to license your music, kind of puts you in their favor. They want to kind of look out for you, even though it might not, might have been so close to landing. They might want to say like, man, I really want to get, you might come top of mind for the next one, is what I'm saying, if you show up well, even if the first one doesn't land. So, man, I love that, John. I appreciate it, man.
Daraj, you just highlighted something really important that John was saying, which is you will almost always come top of mind next time. It doesn't actually matter if your song doesn't land in that show, or especially if you get that far down the line with a large movie like that, like John did. It is so many of our good gigs come from, oh, hey, I had one that came from 2 years ago. Someone was like, oh, you pitched this thing 2 years ago for this other production company and we loved it and we were working with them. Do you think you want to do a thing for this? You were so nice. And by the way, they didn't say your music was so great. They just went, you were so nice. So
Right.
I'm a big believer in that kind of stuff, and retreading songs and all that kind of stuff. It all comes back around. So try to keep your head about that stuff.
I totally agree. I just will quickly add, I think if you come from a place of not just looking to get a placement, but come from a place of service, like the person that you're doing business with needs something. And if you have any capacity or ability to help facilitate what they need, whether you immediately benefit from it or not. I had somebody call me 2 weeks ago looking, supervisor on a big production, big movie, was looking to pull a band together in Atlanta. And I'm not currently in Atlanta, I'm in Greenville. But they needed somebody, and needed real short turnaround. And I directed them to a producer that I've worked with there, who I knew was tight with, really good musicians and bands and everything. And I didn't have anything to do with it, but I knew that would help what they needed. And they were really appreciative. And the person who I referred them to was really appreciative. And, for me, it's about, somebody comes to you with a problem. Can you help solve their problem? And if you can do that, then, then you're seen as somebody who's helpful. And that's always a good thing.
I love that. I love it. All right, so we have 2 more, and then we're going to pivot to see who actually did the homework assignment from last week. We should do a poll to see who actually remembers what the homework assignment was from last week. Okay, so, and I apologize, I think I skipped Janae. What's up, Janae? How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good. So I think you're in the category of you've pitched your music before, right?
Yes, but in a more untraditional way than to like
Okay.
a supervisor. I was actually a stand-in on a feature film set. Um, and I had a conversation with the director, and after I left the set, I wrote a song and decided to like shoot my shot.
Fire.
Sent it to the director after she gave me her contact info. And I guess I kind of got lucky. And a relationship kind of grew from there. So like everybody's been talking about relationships, and I've been able to get more opportunities to potentially like work on more songs for that specific film, as well as her putting me in contact with her like director friends who are also working on projects that are interested in having my music in their film. So yeah, I guess like I just shot in the dark and crossed my fingers, and good luck.
Don't belittle your work on that. You did not shoot a shot in the dark. That was a calculated shot that you were smart enough to take. You had good music. You were polite. You clearly made a relationship with the director enough for them to give you their phone number, and then you made a calculated shot. So don't diminish your work, because it's not just luck. It's all of the product of all the things that we're talking about. Be a human, make relationships, be respectful, and do it in a way where people are willing to work with you. So congratulations. That's great. Don't diminish your work.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, she bodied that. She skipped a whole line and went straight to the director. So that's awesome, Janae. That was a cheat code right there. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, Janae. And I'm glad you came up, because there are those alternative ways, to still get your music in front of, the right people. And it may come in, ways that you weren't necessarily anticipating, as a stand-in, going for, a particular role. The opportunity came where, I also have music, but, you did it tactfully. So I love that. I appreciate it, Janae.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we have she looks like she's brand new to Clubhouse. We can tell by the party icon. And I hope I don't pronounce the name wrong. Is it Tria or Treya? Help me out.
Oh, it's Taria. It's like Maria with a T.
Oh, Taria. Okay. I was wrong both times. All right.
Welcome, Taria.
Welcome. So, Taria, have you pitched your music before?
Oh, it's okay. This information, God, it's priceless. This is an amazing room, so thank you for your time. I did have an opportunity to pitch some music. It was an advertising commercial. It was a relationship I had with a music exec, industry exec. And one thing I learned from that is the importance. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. But I learned the importance in time deadlines in the TV film world. I was coming from the pop, hip hop music side, so the deadlines are a little more, a little more loose there. And I didn't realize how strict they were in the TV film world. And I had written, it was a running advertisement, I guess, commercial about running. And I had actually written a song called Running. I had written it for a TV film, for a TV, a feature film that was being shot at my building, and I just decided to write this song based off of what the guy had shared with me, what the movie would be about. And then a couple of years later, somebody reached out, and he was like, "Hey, I have this advertisement. I need any records focused on running." And I actually had a song called Running. So he loved the song, but I got it to him too late. He needed it by midnight. Yeah. I got it to him by like 12:20, and that still eats me up a little bit, but
that's the worst.
Especially the fact that he was like, "I love this song. This song would have been it," but oh well.
Right,
I just wanted to share that.
No, that's a really good story. Eric, I see you flashing. Go ahead, man. Oh, okay, cool. No, that's actually a really good point. As far as how quickly this side of the business really moves, and understanding like everybody. I'm reading this, the Thinking in Sync book, and she says it a couple times in there. It's just like, one, if it can't get all parties to clear it, then that's one strike. But also two, it's just like, if they can't find, if it doesn't arrive in a timely fashion, or if they have it and it's not, they can't figure out who, owns it or represent whatever, like whatever kind of becomes a barrier of entry, it's likely that they can, they got to move on, just because it moves so quickly. But that's I think a really good point to bring up, even though it may not have went, but I guess the positive side of that story is that, the individual that was looking to license the song, they actually really, really liked it. And so at least they know, like, hey, she can deliver. She has, quality music that fits for the need. And so I think that's a strong takeaway, even if, the deadline got missed. But pretty cool.
I have a question for Jess Gramuglia based on that. Jess, are you with us?
Yes.
Hello,
Italy.
I don't know why there's a flag on me, but okay.
So my question, because I feel like you see a lot of volume in terms of pitching and stuff like that. I'm curious if you're willing to share, have there been times where you've received music that you loved, but you can tell us why it didn't work out? Like, one might have been timing. Are there other reasons why songs don't work out for you? And some of those reasons in terms of how people pitch?
Are they pitching because I sent a brief, or are they blind pitching me?
Let's go both. Why not?
For a brief, if I love it and it doesn't work, it's usually out of my control. And it's coming from the production team, or post supervisor, depending on the project, director, all that jazz, like you were talking about earlier. If it's pitched to me without asking, I most likely haven't gotten to it yet, or I'm just not looking for that. I've been recently getting a ton of Christmas pitches, and I don't do Christmas music. I don't need it. I've never sent a brief in the 3 years I've been at Con and asked for it. But I still get it anyway. So it's stuff like that. It's like, if you know I've never asked for it historically speaking, if you haven't done the research, most of the time it's because I just don't use that kind of music. And if I'm honest, I probably haven't gotten to it yet because my workload is like unbearable, if I'm honest. So I sadly don't get to listen to music for fun as much as I used to. Whereas I used to be a lot more proactive, so I could listen and spend more time listening to the pitches. I didn't, that aren't for brief, just people sending me updates and new releases and all that. I'm not up to speed as I used to be, and I don't have a coordinator to help, and it sucks. Just like Atik was saying, I wish I would have an assistant. And then sometimes it's just not quality. I get a lot of pitches that aren't ready to be sent to a supervisor, in my opinion. And it's like hit or miss because I don't ever feel comfortable giving feedback unless they ask for it. And even then, I always make a point to specify, like, are you prepared for critical feedback, or do you want what you want? Do you want me to say what you're hoping I say, kind of a thing? Because that's a different conversation.
Yeah, and that's incredibly generous of you because most music supervisors do not have the time, even if they want to give you feedback on why, a song didn't work out that way. But
Yeah.
I think something you said was really important, which is for our audience to take away. It's really good to validate your music with other people. You said there's a quality level to what Condé Nast would say, and I would say go listen to what go look at and listen to the content and the quality of the content that they're putting out, whoever you're trying to pitch to, and then validate your music with other people. You can validate it in our Saturday rooms. You can go to friends. You have other producers or songwriters, or everybody's got a community, be it in person or digital or virtually here. Go validate that song and say, hey, how does this mix sound? Hey, do you think this sounds a little bouncy? Do you think it would compete with voiceover or things like that? So really listen to what you're trying to pitch for and know that quality, because sometimes it can be an awesome song. It doesn't mean it's right for sync. Not every great song is meant to be up against a picture or in the background, especially.
I have to say that's probably one of the hardest things for people to hear, when they know that their music is really good and then your only feedback is like, this isn't a syncable song. It's a great fucking song. I love it, but I can't put this to picture. And then trying to go into why, depending on the project, that is probably harder to have that conversation than actually saying, like, the production isn't there. This just doesn't sound like you have honed in your songwriting craft yet, and all of that is actually harder to tell someone with really good music their song just isn't syncable. It's so hard.
Hey,
I love this.
just
I
tell
want to
them.
get to. Oh, sorry, Niraj. I
I was
want to
about
get
to
to.
say.
Go
Oh, my
ahead.
bad.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying. I was gonna say, just tell them to come to the listening sessions. We get them straight.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get to Eric's question, homework of the week, from last week. But Jess, would you come back next week and be on stage again if you have the time? Because I'd love to get more into what things might not make something syncable, even if it's an awesome song.
Yeah. Let me know.
Very cool. All right.
I
We'll
mean,
see you
you
next
just let me know.
Wednesday.
Yes, I plan to be here on time today too. It's in my
You're
calendar. I
amazing.
put it in my
Jess is on
calendar.
another time zone, y'all. So she's amazing for even being here. So I'm going to beg you to come back next week because I think that's a really good topic. But Eric gave all of us and our audience some homework last week. So, Daraj, you want to pull the audience and see who remembers their homework,
Yeah.
or should we get into who did their
I'm
homework?
I'm feeling these polls. All right. So if you were here last week, raise your hand if you remember what the actual homework assignment was. Okay, we got a couple people. All right, I'm gonna pull them up. Look, I'm gonna actually. I don't know if I should do that because I don't know if they actually did the
Right, they might
homework.
not have done
Put your hand down.
it.
Put your hand down. All right. Raise your hand if you actually did the homework. Hold on, we got to turn the hand raiser back on. All right, raise your hand if you actually did the homework.
Wait, can we remind them what it is? Maybe somebody did it, but they wouldn't have done it.
All right, the homework was, Eric, you go ahead and tell them what the homework was.
So last week we were talking about business development, and I said I wanted everyone to make an effort to reach out to someone this week. Make an introduction, someone you were in already a relationship with, whether DM or cold email, using the things we've learned or discussed in this room so that you're not doing it obnoxiously or rudely or in an ineffective way. And so, yeah, we want to see who's done that or who tried something this week. Anybody?
Somebody had their hand up. Who was it? Who did the homework assignment? There he is. Okay,
I
Shireen.
think I got the homework assignment. I received the homework assignment
From
and I'm a
Yeah,
supervisor?
jerk and I
same.
definitely didn't answer. So if you're in the room and I remember seeing something come in saying something about accountability with Control Camp and I was
Nice.
jabroni and I didn't answer you yet. I'm so sorry.
No, but you were doing that was a real response. So I think that was the right way to do it. Jess, it's like a real laboratory experiment. You want a real life. That's what's going to
Yeah,
happen in real
I
life.
got people hitting me up too.
That's what's up. Okay.
Shireen is up here. Tell us what did you do, Shireen?
I think
Shireen, can you hear me?
Hey guys, I'm on a walk, so sorry if there's background noise. Um, I reached out to a filmmaker directly who is involved with a couple projects and just starting to think about the music. And it was cool. It was cool.
So what was
I
the
didn't.
context? Was it
Oh, go ahead.
email or
I
social?
met her on Clubhouse. I hit her up on Instagram and, did all the stuff we've talked about. And then she asked me to email her some sample tracks.
Wait, so before
What is,
I'm slowing
yeah,
you down because I want to know, was this the first
yeah.
time? Was this a totally cold contact, or was it somebody that you knew?
It was totally cold, except we met in Clubhouse and
Okay.
kind of vibed on Clubhouse.
So give us a general idea of the the context of your DM that you sent last week, or the first message that you sent.
Well, she mentioned working on a couple of films, and one of them was about a woman. And so I was like, I have songs about women. you know, Here, have some. So it was pretty loose, but yeah, that's it really.
Very cool, Shireen. Awesome. Good on you for making that effort, and thanks for sharing it.
I think we should all give Shireen
Thanks.
a mic flash applause just for the effort.
Woohoo!
Aw. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Go
Thanks.
Shireen.
Janae, did you raise your hand? Because you
Okay.
did something last week.
Yeah. So I wasn't here last week, so I didn't know that was the homework, but I did it anyways just because like I'm a student and I've been like looking for internships, especially like August is coming up, so and schools are like emailing me. So I've been like reaching out to different companies and just like contacts that I've met also on Clubhouse to see if they would be interested in like having an intern or something like that. So I've been practicing using like correct email etiquette and just being a human being.
Janae, I'm going to put myself on blast here. So Janae has been trying to get an internship with us for a couple of months, and we weren't open again until the fall. And I have to give her a lot of credit. She's on with our team, and my team is constantly saying, she's so polite and she's so nice. You better give her an internship. So we haven't gotten to picking our fall interns yet, and we weren't really sure if we were even going to get to with the pace of things that were going. But you've been doing a great job, and keep that up. And sorry from our end, but good to be reminded. Again, a lot of it has nothing to do with you personally. When you reach out to people, and I think the way you're doing is right. Janae always reaches out very politely. She's not annoying. She doesn't reach out every day. Once every couple of weeks or so, we get a nice little love tap from her just saying, hey, I'm starting school in the fall and we got to do some paperwork. Would you consider, having me there? That's the right way to do it. And then, as things get more closer to the time, then eventually someone like me or someone on my team will say, hey, if we have a spot, this is how we do it, kind of a thing. So bravo to you, Janae.
Thank you.
Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
And if someone better and cooler than me wants to give Janae an amazing internship, do it because she's awesome. Please.
That is so cool. Thank you, Janae. I want to just add to that for the room, especially now that I'm getting more and more messages from people, and I find myself not always being as responsive as I'd like to be. It's a whole nother trick to manage. I really, no one ever bothers me by coming back, a couple weeks later saying, "Hey, just touching base," or just checking in, or just, no, as long as it's not a, "Hey, why didn't you respond to my email" type response. But for the people who are just like touching base, I don't think you can never occasionally, in my opinion, follow up politely too much. Whether it's that regular 2 week interval or once every 4 week interval, depending on who you're talking with. Don't ever say, "Oh well, I've hit them up 3 times. It's just not going to happen." There's nothing wrong with doing it. 4 week, like just setting a reminder, and 2, 3, 4 weeks later, just saying, "Hey, just checking in. Hope things are well." Just reminding, just hope things are well, and then have the link to your music maybe in there, or just saying I was following up because you had that request about Christmas music or what have you. But you won't go wrong if with a polite follow up, no matter, even if it's multiple times.
Eric, that's really important because I don't know if you remember our conversation from last week when we were talking about this. There was Hannah Goldberg, the student from the music industry student from Oneonta, on the stage, and I was saying, I spoke to all you students and none of you reached out to me. It turns out Hannah wrote me a very nice letter that ended up in spam. And when she was in Clubhouse, I never knew, she never got a response from me because her email actually just landed in spam. And when she was in Clubhouse, not only did she not act like a jerk and be like, "Yo, I wrote you, you never wrote me back," which I would have not responded politely to. She was so graceful about it, and she was like, "Hey, I heard what you said tonight. I wanted to just follow up." And then what that did was actually kick up her email out of trash or out of spam into my inbox, and I saw the original message and I was like, "Whoa." Like, I'm so sorry. So again, sometimes shit gets spammed. So, a little polite follow up can actually kick that out of the spam box and into somebody's inbox. And that's also why Eric just made the point. You never want to be rude anyway, but you extra don't know why that person didn't respond. They might not have ever seen that message.
So true, so true. Okay, so in the last 20 minutes we have, again, this is Control Camp. We are a community of sync licensing participants at all levels, novices to experts, supervisors, etc., all just kind of sharing and exchanging knowledge about music for TV, film, and ads, etc. So thank you for being here. One question I want to have other mods who are here. We're talking about business development, and we always talk about business development from the perspective of those aspiring to get in the industry. But everybody on the stage has different roles, and everybody on the stage, I'm very curious, you all do your own types of business development. You all have to establish new relationships, or you're cold contacting certain people, or you're following up with relationships. So I'd love to just kind of poll the stage in just in a couple of minutes just to see, what do you do for your own business development? Are you active on any particular social networks? Do you use LinkedIn or DMing? Are you meeting people in person when you could do that? What's business development look like for you? Can we, Mike? So, and you still are you here? Can we start with you?
Yeah,
Because I know
Eric,
you do
I'm here.
international stuff, so I would love to hear what you do.
Yeah, so I take I guess what most would consider a slower approach, but one that's tends to be stickier in the long run. I think I've talked about on here before that these aren't just business relationships. They can veer into friendships and personal relationships, that because you know gaining trust from a supervisor or someone that needs to select music is a big leap. And in order to gain that trust, like, you have to really spend some time establishing that trust, and not just come in like hawking your wares, like, what do you need? I got this, I got that. Like, you have to really get to know the person, and for them to get to know you and trust you and your musical taste, and that you'll be on brief and all of the rest of the things we talk about, on time, have your metadata in order, professional, etc. So, with that said, in terms of actually connecting with supervisors and business development, I always, and the reason it's slow is because I'm very patient about how I connect to them. And for the most part, it's a very, very, very strong referral. So if you think of it in terms of how we personally discover new music, most of the time it's through other friends whose musical tastes we trust. And that's been established over years of knowing that person and getting good recommendations from them about music to check out and that you end up liking. So um, it's not too dissimilar when trying to connect with supervisors. I know that they have a small circle of trust. And so when I was starting my business, I was the new guy and, um, someone that people didn't really know or a name they didn't recognize. So the best way for me to sort of um, at least get on the radar initially, and then from there have to sort of prove myself, was to be patient and wait until someone, whether it's a first degree or second degree connection, introduced me uh, to the said supervisor or ad agency or or what have you. So um, it kind of went a little slower out of the gates. May have been a little bit more aggressive, but I found that by doing it that way, getting that really strong referral from someone that they had already, that was already in their circle of trust, just made the connection a bit stickier from the jump. And, from there, it wasn't like they were just going to trust me out of the gates, but it got me past like, you know, um, a few tiers of the trust sort of concentric circles, if you will. And so, yeah, that was sort of my main. That was my approach, um, and sprinkle in going to events and uh, all the rest of it. Where you'd run into someone, have a conversation, and from there something can happen. It's not like I just sat on my hands, but I also just like made sure that if I didn't just happen to connect with someone at an event, that I was waiting and seeking out that first or second degree of separation that was within their trust circle and asking for a referral and or an introduction. And that typically, has seemed that's it's worked for me thus far. And yeah, so uh, that's how I got down.
It also doesn't hurt to be as fucking cool as Mike, because who doesn't want to hang out with him? I mean,
The feeling is
listen to
mutual,
him
Steph.
speak. You're just like, okay, cool. I want to be
The,
your friend.
the feeling is mutual.
Oh,
Likewise.
thank you. No, it's, look, I think you made a really good point about these are not just business transactions. These people you spend a lot of time with, if you're working on movies or long-term TV projects, especially like Atik's flashing right now, it's like, um, you know, you could be a little different than Jess's job. You could be working with people on a movie for months. Like our post-production is going to be a year, like you're with these people all the time. And it's like, do you want to work with this person all the time? Is their music good, but they laugh like a hyena? I mean, I think about those things. I mean, it's kind of like dating, it's like, you're going to keep this person around long term. Okay, they're smoking hot, but they're dumb as shit. Like whatever. The dating rules apply to sync too, in my
Ah.
opinion.
We're getting real with 11 minutes left. That's crazy.
As I was talking, I was like, this kind of sounds like Hinge or something, or like where I'm like, I need the second or first degree of connection or something. But anyway, yes,
This
dating rules apply, I suppose.
is dope. I love that perspective. Clint, are you on the stage? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
What do you do? What do you do for business development for yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely I feel like the reaching out and things like that, is kind of constant. I know lately I've been doing the same thing, but more so on kind of like a business to business or like brand level with, just doing different brand deals and things like that, and leveraging, the following that I have. And honestly, I find it's been an easy transition because the same principles apply even from, reaching out to music soups or music libraries. It's just like it's a different person in a company, but you're still treating them like humans and, being polite and courteous of their time and their busy schedules as well. Um, so definitely always doing that, and just creating music. I try and push off some of the other things that I'm not best at to my assistant or other people that can just do things quicker so that I can focus on what I do best, which is either creating content or creating music, which honestly is content as well. So I just try and stay focused on the things that kind of moves and pushes my business forward, and outsource everything else to kind of keep me most productive.
Clint, you're not only a polite and lovely person, Clint's also a problem solver. And I can tell you, when I reach it back out to person, so Clint, we reached out to him for a gig. There were 2 opportunities, and we gave people the option to do one or both. And Clint was like, "No, I'll hit both," and hit them great. And there are people that went, "Nah, I only got time for one." And then there's other people who went, "You want me to do 2?" So it's kind of like in your attitude of how you handle things. And you could bet your bottom dollar I did not, on the next one, I'm not going to call the guy who went, "You want me to do 2?" I'm going to call Clint, who went, "I got you. I'll do both of them. Don't sweat it." So I think,
Thank
again,
you, Steph.
yeah, that's, and actually Koichi, it wasn't a wide brief. Only a handful of people did it, and Koichi actually won it. So it was like on the team here. But what you
Nice.
turned in was amazing, and you'd be your name came up for the next one. So you know, I think that goes back to being that problem solver and your approach to just how you did it too. You're very polite and you're super fast, and also not lost on me. For me, I want to see people who are organized. Clint is hella organized and puts things right in box. I don't have to explain things 100 times. If you're the kind of person where I have to re-explain basic stuff, look, I said stuff instead of shit. I ruined it. Damn it. I was so proud of myself for a second. If I have to tell you basic things over and over again about just how to deliver files, it's just time consuming for me. So you're not going to get the second phone call, even if you're awesome. So Clint gets that call again because he's diligent, he's fast, he handles the timelines, and then he does the extra credit homework when assigned.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Paige.
Yeah, kind of a bit of everything within the company, like as a company, and then aside from that, kind of as my own development, because we it's kind of a specific job within trailers as its own. We're kind of a little subset of everything. But always looking and into in show and all that. So it's a lot of kind of everything you said. From I mean, we're starting to have some meetings in person, but it's still a lot of kind of cold calling, some emailing, you know responding to all the briefs that we can, from mass email blasts to just reaching out to our own contacts that we've made throughout the years. Same thing goes just for me personally, doing that. And then through Clubhouse, I've been lucky enough to meet some producers and artists that I've been wanting to, we've been wanting to make some artist albums and stuff, more towards that, and continuing to grow our expansive, kind of Rolodex of singers and songwriters and things for random projects that come along. But it's all of the above. I think you really have to, at least for me, I've really had to kind of use every avenue, from from in person to emails to LinkedIn. We have, Instagram. It's kind of everything. You gotta play the field, and I think it's kind of figuring out what each company pays attention to, or how each company is posting, and just know what they do. And don't go in, if you're gonna cold email somebody, don't go in just being like, hey, it's me and my stuff is great. Like, you should know who you're talking to, and kind of, I try to push the conversation toward what other people do, or who I'm reaching out to, or what we might have in common, because I want to find that common ground and kind of build that relationship more than, I know that they're not going to always have a brief ready for me. So it's more about building those relationships. And, like everyone has said, down the line, you never know, there might be something that you're perfect for, that they'll usually remember you if you've had a good relationship with them.
Paige, I want to highlight something that you said that Mike also said that we kind of just glazed over for a second, which is validating your relationships. So introducing yourself in a way that might be able to help the person on the other side know who you are or trust you quicker, by way of saying, and don't be braggadocious about it, and don't be a jerk about it, or a name dropper about it. And by all means, please, if you're going to, reference somebody, make sure it's somebody that you actually know and that you actually have a relationship with. So don't lie ever. But, let's say I'm reaching out to Brian Miller at the NFL and I never knew him before. I might say, oh, I'm on Clubhouse, with Atik all the time. And, this is what happens. But Atik and I have a relationship, and we were saying blah, blah, blah. Maybe I never talked to him before, and that's the way I do it. So then he can go to Atik and say, is Steph a jerk, or do I like her? And then Atik will be like, she's kind of a jerk, but she makes good music. So
I would not say that. Plus, but the thing is too, Steph, we actually met priorly before Clubhouse too.
We did.
Remember at SynCon?
Yeah. At SynCon, it's true. I'm making an anecdotal story for our audience. By the way, I also blew Atik off last night because I had to work, which sucked. So Atik was totally graceful about it. We had drinks, and that's the thing. It's like, I'm so grateful that he is very a wonderful human, and he is the one person, I have to say. Normally I have a huge policy against canceling meetings on people, because people in LA make a lot of plans and cancel them, and it's so fucked up, and it's such a huge waste of people's time. So I, as a practice, never do it. But I really got in the weeds yesterday, and I had a dinner already planned, and I had plans with Atik on the way to my other, kind of thing. And I was working so hard and working so late that for my own mental health, I just went, I'm so sorry. Would you hate me if we did this next week? But Atik's the one person, because he's always talking about mental health, I felt safe to do it with. So I appreciate you for that.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. I always tell people, you got to do what's best for you and your well-being. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're stressed out unnecessarily. You can always get drinks another time.
You guys are so generous and thoughtful. This has been awesome. This has been great. I appreciate everyone on the stage for just what you've been sharing and the information you've been sharing. We've had just such cool discussions. So, Daraj, Steph, any final thoughts before we transition into our after party?
Daraj, you got some?
So I just got a question in my inbox. I don't know if we want to hold it off for next time, or what you thinking?
Ask it, and then let's determine.
Okay. Somebody wants to know if there's an easy way to find briefs. Is it like a public place for music supervisors to send out briefs? Or do they already kind of have to be, or you have to kind of be on their radar already?
That's an amazing question. And I would say tune in next week for this riveting response that our entire audience is going to answer for you.
I'll keep it in the pipeline.
We're going to leave
the
on
question
a
gets me heated, guys. That question gets me heated.
No, I knew it would. Me too. I want to have a huge, let's start next week with this amazing question. We got 2 great questions to talk about next week already. Let's talk about it. That's cool. And I want to say, I love this new format. I hope everybody else does. And thank you to Mike and Amanda and Clint and Atik and Jess and Paige and my amazing co-hosts Eric and Daraj, and to our audience who's very loyal, and welcome to all the new faces that we see in Clubhouse tonight and Control Camp tonight, even new to Clubhouse. We are so thrilled that you're here, and don't forget to ping a couple people and let them know this is how our community grows. And if you want to build that network for yourself, add them to Clubhouse, add them to Control Camp, and that's how we build our community. So thanks everybody. We'll see you at the after party.
Awesome.
Thanks, Steph, Daraj, Eric. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Look at us. We stopped right at 10
Thanks,
o'clock.
guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right. If you're not following us, click on the icon so you can come see the after party. Click on the house so you can and follow the club. We'll see the rest of you next week, or we'll see you in the after party in 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds.